Hello, I'm Al. Welcome to the Guitar Shack. So today's video is a double feature because since I relocated, I've got a fair amount of stock guitars that I need to put through my process. And I had these two, which are almost a matching pair. And I thought it'd be quite fun to do the sort of comparison between them. So these are both mid 2000s Mexican standards in what is probably my favorite Fender color, Midnight Wine. The Telecaster, so this is 2004. As far as I can see, externally it is completely standard apart from the addition of the three saddle bridge, which I approve of as a nice upgrade to any Mexican standard telly. Um, these have got the 21 fret neck. They've got, I think the telly will have Alnicos in it. We'll find out when we get in there. I haven't opened it up yet. It's the earlier model. It's got the smaller Fender script and the serial number on the front. And it's got the standard Fender closed tuners. So that's the telly. It's in pretty good condition. It's got some nice play wear on the neck. It's got a few chips and dents on the body, not much. It's just a really nice condition, well played, but very lovely guitar. And then moving on to the Strat. So this neck is not original to this body, but they are of the same model and the same era. So the neck is 2007. It's these days it was genuine rosewood, which is a big plus. The body, as you can see, Midnight Wine. And the other bit that's not original is this came without electronics. So this pick guard is one that I actually built up with iron gear pig iron Alnicos, which are really nice pickups, really clear, trebly, but full sounding, lovely pickups. I actually built them for another guitar, but then the gentleman that bought it wanted his own electronics fitted, which I was happy to do. So that's actually a really nice upgrade on the original ceramics that would have been in this. So I'm going to get into both of them. I'm going to have a look up close. I'm going to strip them down, deep clean them, check everything out, and then put them back together, give them a full setup, and then they'll be listed for sale. So what I'm going to do now is strip these down, get the strings off them, get inside them, and see what we're dealing with. So first things first, this is a little bit of polythene which came out of one of the neck screw holes when I took the backplate off the Telecaster, which I think indicates that the neck has never actually been off since the factory. So that's a good sign this is a pretty much unmolested guitar. As we can see on the Telecaster neck, we've got the standard kind of factory markings. We've got a small shim in the tail, so I could be talking crap then. It has actually been off and been shimmed. There isn't a shim in the Stratocaster neck, but it will need one just from playing it. I can tell that the setup's going to need a shim, and it's got the correct factory codes on it. And then, as you can see, very little wear, if any, just need a polish on the Strat neck, whereas on the Telecaster neck, we've got a bit, it's not bad by any means, but there's a few areas where, yeah, particularly in the first few frets, which is what you'd expect, because where we can see there's the actual wear in the finish itself, then that's been earned somehow. So this will be getting level crowned and polished, but overall it's in really nice shape. So looking inside the back compartment of the Stratocaster, first thing is that clearly it's been routed out for a battery. So at some point this has had active pickups It's been very neatly done, it's nicely finished, so that's not a concern. It's got a full-sized block, which is correct for the tremolo, and the middle screws on the back plate are offset against each other, they're not opposite each other. So again, that's a good sign from a sort of Fender authenticity point of view. Okay, so that's the strip down complete. So if we look at the Stratocaster first, then a couple of interesting things. First thing is that we can see there is extra routing stroke. I'd like to call it routing, but it's actually just body damage because I think he's done it with a wooden spoon. In the neck pickup pocket, where it's been excavated in order to, I guess, fit a full-sized humbucker in there. And I think the fact that it looks like it's been done with, I don't know, a Dremel perhaps, also explains this this little looping little scratch there. You can see also the cavity has come through where the battery went. So all of that takes place under the pick guard and is hidden from view, so it won't affect the sound and it won't affect the looks, so it's not the end of the world. It's just a little bit unfortunate. The other identifying factors on this one are obviously we've got the three holes in the front face which identify this as a Mexican Fender body. We've got the same hole in the pocket, which is usually present in Mexicans, and we've got a couple of, you know, squiggles and marks which they usually have. The only thing it doesn't have, which is normally present, is that sometimes there's still the little stick-on barcode sticker, which isn't a serial number, it's just part of the production process to identify what model number it is. Now that is present here in the Telecaster. Now the Telecaster is a bit different because this is, well, I can't really call it pristine because it's a bit manky and needs a clean, but it's untouched. So we've got the same hole in the pocket. We've got the Mickey Mouse ears, which is typical, and then we've got the three holes, so identifying this as a Mexican standard body. Now the other interesting bit about this guitar is you can see from the components and the soldering, it looks undisturbed. These are obviously the original components. These are obviously the correct original pickups, which is right, it should be these plastic bobbined Alnicos. And of course the downside to the design of the Telecaster is that to take everything down and strip the body right down, you've got to unsolder the pickups. And I don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhook the pickups from the bridge and the scratch plate, and also from, well, I might not unhook them, but I'll mask around them, and I'll mask up the control cavities, and I'll hand polish the front of this guitar and just save the machine polishing for the back and the sides, because I don't really want to disturb electronics that have been undisturbed for over 20 years. So there we go, half a roll of masking tape, and then let's just tip it over and then we'll do the other side. It's such a lovely colour, this. It might not actually show up on video the same way as I'm seeing it, but the way the light's hitting it, it's quite a rich kind of ruby red, whereas at other lights it will look dark. Some lights it even looks black, but it comes up really nicely, and I love it with the maple. Okay, so that's most of the dust off it. So this is now ready for the polisher. So same thing here, just lots of caked on crap over the years. Just using a mild detergent on a damp cloth, really, because I don't want too much liquid on here, don't want it getting into the wood or getting into any of the holes. But it's just enough to make sure that I pick up the worst of the dust and the crap, bearing in mind that it's about to get polished, so that's going to make a mess on its own anyway, but I might as well start from a slightly cleaner place. But there we go, this is coming up pretty nicely. Okay, so that will do for this stage, and then it's downstairs for where things get mucky. So, nothing fancy here, just some Meguiar's automotive compound. So that's the polishing done. It's still got some residue on it, still got some polishing compound which I need to clean off, and then I'll stick a couple of coats of wax on it. But they come up a lot better, a lot shinier, and I'm pleased with these. I think they're going to turn out very well. So on the telly, the only thing to do really is to reassemble it, clean out the electronics, check they all work, and put them back together. On the Strat, same thing, but I don't want to leave these cavities as they are. They just annoy me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to neaten up the routing so that this is at least a reasonable shape under here, and then I'll probably just paint it in cavity shielding paint just to tidy it up, because I don't like knowing what it looks like under there. Just call it my OCD. As you can see, it'll all be hidden anyway under the pickguard. So that's fine. We'll only get this residual little scrape here on the upper side, which is nothing to worry about on a 20-year-old guitar, I'd say. Now this pick guard is the one that I mentioned, which I had built up previously. So it's got full-size pots, orange drop, metal switch, um, cloth pushback wire, and iron gear, pig irons, matching set of 3. So these are really nice pickups. So, and it's on a original Fender plate. So this is a nice drop-in upgrade for this guitar, and it'll sound good when it goes back together. So that's the end result. It's not perfect, but it's a lot tidier than it was, and it's properly shielded. So I've continued to paint over the top and between the pickups so that that will then contact with the shielding on the pickguard. So I'll test continuity, but that's all good to go. And then the pickguard itself, as you can see, hides all the sins just nicely. So time to move on to the neck. So first thing we're going to do is strip these right down, get the tuners off, and then we'll have a closer look, see what we've got. So both Mexican. This one is 2007, the Strat 2004 on the telly. Um, Obviously the Strat's rosewood, and you can tell the Mexican, apart from all the other identifiers, because of the black plastic insert in the truss rod hole. So that's a kind of dead giveaway that this is a Mexican neck. Um, in terms of differences, obviously it's a different shape, headstock, also the fret size. So if we look at the Strat, it's got 103 thousandths of an inch. So those are medium jumbo. And on the telly, they're just over 80, which makes them vintage. And that's important because it's means it's one of the reasons why I'm going to treat them slightly differently. Now I really like this era of Mexican Fenders, and the reason for that is the necks. I like the profile; it's a modern C profile, and I like the fact that they came with, or after 20 years, they've got nicely rolled edges, not to the degree of roll that you get in a USA by any means, but just enough that it's got a nice kind of broken in feel and just feel nice on the edges. That's the same for this rosewood board on the Strat as it is on the telly. It feels really nice. The other thing is that the fret ends are really nicely done. Now that's quite possibly about how guitar's been maintained, but in both of these guitars, the fret ends really are pretty good. So that's the upside. The downside on this Telecaster, though, is the amount of fret wear. So we can see it quite clearly here. Um, the G string's particularly bad, but it's a fairly normal kind of pattern where up at the open chords end of the neck, we've got a lot more wear, but there's wear all the way down, particularly in the G string. Let's see if we can catch it in the light. Yeah, you can see it on the G string, even up in the 7th, 8th, 9th, all the way up really. So that's an obvious candidate. It needs to be leveled. I suppose my concern with this particular neck though is two things. I think it looks like it's been leveled before more than once because it hasn't been crowned particularly well. So there is a kind of not terrible, but there's a slightly flattened off top to these frets, which suggests that they might not have enough meat. And then more importantly, where the G-string divots are, they really are quite low. And I think that if I brought these frets back to level, which means they have to go down to the lowest point, then I think at that point the frets would be too low. I'm also, although it's one of the attractions of this guitar is that I think this is genuine wear on the board, although I can see you can see brush marks. So at some point this board has been refinished. That's not the original Fender finish on it, but even that finish has been worn through. So whether this has been a relic job and it just looks quite nice, or whether it's genuine play wear and it's been refinished as part of just tarting it up a little bit in the past, I'm not sure. But I think in this case, I'm going to refret it rather than anything else, because two reasons. One, if that wear is genuine, then that's an indicator that the frets themselves are just too low anyway. Secondly, because these are small frets, because they're vintage, but they really are pretty low, I don't think I'm going to have enough meat to be able to crown them properly. And I'm also conscious that even if I get away with it, the next guy who does any work on it's going to definitely have to pull them. And if you take them too low when you pull them, they become quite difficult to actually pull. So from a longevity of the guitar point of view, I think it needs to be refretted. There's also a more general point, which is that this is a 20-something-year-old guitar, and I'm giving it a proper makeover and bringing it up to as good as it can be, whilst not in any way trying to sort of over-restore it or pretend that it's not a 20-odd-year-old guitar. So I think in terms of the quality of the product that I'm then selling on, I want it to be as good as it can be, and these frets aren't going to get to that standard. So there's that. And then finally, I guess the other way of looking at it is a fret job on a maple neck guitar is quite expensive, partly because of the amount of finish work or care that you've got to take. You've got to be sure that you cut away the finish when you pull them. You've got to be very careful about how you reinstall them. Doing the fret ends just takes more time. So it's not ideal from a refretting point of view. This board would be a lot easier to refret, but of course it doesn't need it. And I kind of think that if I don't do it, who's going to? So Mexican Telecasters, they quite often end up in this kind of middle ground situation where badly chipped finishes don't get refinished because it's not worth, economically, it's not worth the effort. And badly worn boards don't get refretted for the same reason. It's not worth economically to do it. So I kind of think, well, if I don't do it at this stage and it's just going to get worse, who is going to then save this guitar? So I'll do that. And the other thing I want to show you on this guitar, which again is characteristic of Mexicans of this era, is that the finish is starting to lift on the headstock. It's not terrible at this stage, but it is needing to be caught. So you can see a bit there. You can see it here. It's just a slightly lighter colour where the finish has started to lift. Unfortunately, it is over the logo, and I know from experience that if you try and strip this back, it will take the original logo and so on with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and wick in some glue, which will then stabilize it. And what normally happens is it's either invisible or it looks like the grain in the wood afterwards, but it stops it in its tracks. So that's another repair that I'll do to this, and I'll give it good polish up. So I'm going to be busy with this neck, but it'll be worth doing. I've now straightened both necks, set the truss rods so they're completely flat on the boards using a notched edge, because it's the boards that we want flat, not necessarily the frets themselves for levelling. I'm not going to bother checking the telly because it needs a fret job anyway. The Strat, I'm just going over with my rocker. this should be okay because I had it previously installed. And I can't remember whether I levelled it before I installed it or whether it was fine. But either way, I wouldn't have done that without levelling it if I needed it. Yeah, there's no rocks. So that's fine. So the Strat is just going to need frets polished. As I said, the fret ends are lovely. So this is a good neck, good to go. So I can focus on the Telecaster. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, but let's try. So the reason for it takes more time to do a maple neck is because you're trying to do minimum damage to the finish. And what you can just about see here, I think, on these last frets is that there's still some original, just right in the middle there, still a little bit of the original poly finish which was applied over the frets, which is how they do it at Fender factories. And what happens is that as the guitar gets played, that finish wears off. As it gets fret crowned and polished, then it almost all goes, but you still have little bits just along the edge where the finish goes from the wood onto the fret. And the key to getting a decent fret job on a maple neck guitar is getting rid of that finish before you pull the frets, because the last thing you want to do is pull the frets with that finish still attached and you start lifting the finish. So now the way to deal with that is to use a brand new scalpel blade and to score along the edge of each fret on both sides, clear away any finish that's still attached to it, so that it can then, the jaws can get under the fret and pull it cleanly, and secondly, that as it pulls, it doesn't pull away any finish along the sides, and then that will give me a nice clean surface to put the new frets in onto, and hopefully no damage or minimal damage to the finish itself. It's not the end of the world, it's just more touch-up work to do afterwards if there is, because sometimes it's unavoidable, particularly around the fret ends. But I'm pretty fastidious about doing them anyway, so I expect to be spending time on them one way or the other. That's done. It doesn't look very different, but there's a little line of finish has peeled off along each edge of each fret, so that's now a lot cleaner. I'll give it hoover off and then start pulling the frets. And there we go, all pulled. Now the other reason why I don't like maple boards is that I can't hide my mistakes, so I put a little bit too much heat on this fret, as you can see, which wouldn't show up at all on a rosewood board. In reality it doesn't matter at all, because that will clean up and be under the new fret. Now, using the soldering iron method is, I find, the best method for minimising chip out. You always get a little bit, a tiny bit, but these have come out pretty cleanly. So I'm going to clean up the board and then clean out the slots, and then use a V-file just to round over the tops of them a little bit so the new frets go in cleanly. And then we'll be into the fun part of putting the frets in. So the new frets are a little bit bigger. So these are the Fender standard fret wire, which is actually these days, these are medium jumbos, so same size as on the Stratocaster. So they'll be, as compared to the vintage ones where, in this case, yeah, about 80 thou. So slightly wider, which is exactly what you want to do on a maple board, because it gives you coverage. It'll just go slightly over the edges on the finish of where the old one stopped. So basically there's a couple of tools that they use at this stage. The key here is to clean up the fret slots so that they're ready for new frets to go in. So use two things. One is this, which is a fret slot cleaning saw, easy for you to say. And with this, what I'm doing is gently cleaning out anything which is sitting in the fret slots, leftover glue from the original fret installation. And we do this as often as it takes so that it's running smoothly in each fret. So that's one tool, and then the other tool that I use is just this triangular file, and what we do is just gently run it along the top of each slot, and what we're aiming to do is to take away any bits that are stuck or sticking up or rough, and also to slightly chamfer the edge just so that the new fret tang can slide in more easily, and that just helps the fret seat properly. So I'm going to do this across the entire board now, so I'm not going to sit and make you sit through all of that, so I'll come back when that's done. That's the new frets tapped in. I'm now going to check for any gaps with a feeler gauge, see if I can slip it under any of them. And then once I'm sure they're all properly seated, I will start gluing. So here's the end result. So nice new shiny set of frets that will last for a good long time and extend the life of the guitar. I decided definitely not to do any finish repairs on the board itself. I'll leave this wear. Obviously I've touched in where there's chips and stuff down the side just to give a nice playing surface. And the super glue is done as much as it can do to stabilise the logo and the serial number. So that's now at least going to stay with the guitar as opposed to falling off, which is about as much as I can achieve. Obviously with the new fret height, this nut is toast. It'll be far too low. So I'll make a new nut and then we'll be good to go. And then switching back to the Stratocaster neck, now this was in really good shape, so it was just a question of cleaning up and polishing the frets and then giving the board a good conditioning. And then jumping back again, so stripping down the two bridges and giving them a good clean. reassembled and ready to go. I'll just get the neck put together and then fit it up and then get onto the setup. So that's us on the home straight with the Strat. I'm out of stock on nut blanks, first time ever. So be putting the tail together in a couple of days once I get those in. But the Strat is complete and ready to go, so let's do that. So when I had put it together earlier on, the action was a bit high at the neck end or at the body end, and it was pretty high saddles as a result. So I am going to shim this setup just to see how we get on. So I've cut a shim, put it in, and then let's get that exciting point where oh, nearly forgot to wax my screws. Can't do that. So I always think this is a fun part of putting the guitar back together again. One of the things that they do at the Fender factory is they assign the serial number at the point where the neck goes on the body. So the serial number is associated with the neck, not the body. But then when the body is built up into the final guitar, it gets the serial number that went with the neck. So my argument or my philosophy is that the guitar itself was born at the point where you put the body on the neck. And this is that moment. So welcome to the world, Stratocaster. The other thing is that from a manufacturing point of view, that assignment of a particular body with a particular neck is a kind of random process in terms of which actual body is the one which is picked out of a bin or picked out of a rack or the build sheet in front of the person who's assembling it. Then they put that one on the neck and that becomes an official Fender guitar. So you can see where I'm going with this, which is that this body or this neck did not start life with this body, but it is the correct model and almost to the year. It could be the same year. I'm not entirely sure what year the body actually is, but the neck's a 2007, and these bodies, Mexican standard bodies, were this model on that year. So this is as genuine a Fender as because all these parts of Fender had than if somebody had picked this neck and this body and put them together. So endless debate to be had about what's a parts caster, what's not a parts caster. My view is this is all Mexican Stratocaster. Every component apart from the pickguard and the pickups is Mexican Stratocaster of the right components, of the right era, and therefore I think it's a legit Mexican Stratocaster. That's my view. You may well differ. So, strung up and tuned up. So next thing is to do the basic setup. So starting off with the truss rod, seeing where we are from a relief point of view, we've got way too much. So we're going to have to bring that back slightly. That's now sitting at 6 thou, so that's a lot more acceptable. So let's just bring that up to, I'll bring that down to tune. Well, that plays pretty well as it is. The only thing is that I've got way too much tension on the trem now. So I'm going to drop it back a little bit to allow it to float more. See how that looks. Yep, bit more. Still a bit high. I could put extra springs on it, but I like to set it up so it's floating with the standard 3 springs on it. And then if somebody wants to do a bit more on it, that's fine. But so let's just detune that a little bit. Right, so that is decked at standard pitch. So just need to back that off a little bit. It's always an iterative process when you're setting up a Strat if you're going to float it. The good news is you can watch what's happening with the block to see whether it's moving, which that is now just a little bit too much. Yep, so that's floating nicely. So let's put this back up to pitch and then see where we're at. So we've got a mil of float on the trem. So that will go up and down. I've got 6 thousandths of relief. So now that we've got that lot interacting correctly, let's see what we're doing on on action. I mean, it's pretty nice actually. So that is 1.5 mil at the low E and 1 mil on the high E. That's going to be that's pretty low. I'd sort of intonated it. Well, I'd sort of set the radius roughly when I put the saddles back on, so they're lower at the edges. So I will go over it properly, but just from a feel point of view, unless there's anything buzzing out, this is. That's interesting. So that is almost. I mean, that's actually a pretty decent setup where it sits. I will go further and I'll fine tune it and do more on it. But the interesting thing about it is that that's because it's a function of several things. One is that because I've already fixed the neck action or the neck angle. So because I have put a shim in it just up at this end, it's raised the tail slightly, which then means that I've got a good action here already. And that, together with the fact that the truss rod is at 6,000 switches, got some relief, but it's relatively straight. It's a decent place for an electric guitar. Then already, because the frets are level, then I'm getting a completely playable action and actually a very low action just as it stands. So I'll fine tune it a bit. I'm not going to sit and go through all of that with you, and then I'll set the intonation and the pickup heights and then the intonation. But I can tell already that this is going to set up very well. 1 mil on the high E is too low for most people. I mean, most setups I'll put out will be 1.5 on the high on the low E and 1.25 on the high E, unless the customer asks for something else. And for a guitar that's going for sale like this, I'll set it at my standard, and then if somebody wants it set up differently, by all means. But that's a fairly low action anyway, 1.5 to 1.25. Most people are happier with that. I like to, a lot of people would like to go a bit higher, and it's a lot easier to raise the action than it is to lower it, obviously. So I like to get it to a point where it can take a low action, and then if you want to go higher, that's fine. The guitar can do that. So I'm happy with this. I'll put the back cover on it, obviously, and then I will fiddle with it, get it set up immaculately, and then I'll mess about with it for a couple of days whilst I'm waiting for the nut for the Telecaster, and then I'll get that one done too. So back onto the telly then. Give all the electronics a good clean out, and then we're into reassembly. So that's the telly body back together and tidied up. So really pleased with how this has come out. It's in really good shape for a 20-year-old guitar. The colour is really nice. I've managed to sort of pull out as many scratches as possible. So we've got a few little dinks. So we've got a chip on the upper bout here. I've learned from experience not to bother trying to do anything with that, because in this colour it just won't match. I've got a few scratches on the top surface here, which didn't come out. They're actually a bit raised, so I don't know what those are. But that's up close. From anywhere else it looks really nice. A couple of minor scratches at the bottom there just by the electro socket, but I'd say this is pretty respectable for a 20-year-old guitar. So, the moment of coming together. So I'm putting the same shim in as was in it before. I know that it all works beautifully there, so I'm assuming that it's going to be the right setup with that in place. Voila! And that's the telly done as well. Okay, let's have a few sounds. Just play a few chords. Playing through a Fender Mustang GT modeling amp with a twin reverb model with a little bit of reverb, nothing else. So it's neck, middle, and then bridge. Middle. Let's add a little bit of drive. That's the neck. So that's the Strat. For comparison, we'll have a wee play with the telly. Got to choose the right telly. Okay, so I'll try and remember the same things to play. So it's the neck. Then middle. Okay, and some chords. and then bit of drive. So neck. Then bridge. So that's how they sound. So there we have it, 2 matching midnight wine Mexicans. I'm very pleased with the way that these have turned out. I like this era of Mexican Fenders. They're really nicely made. They've got lovely necks and they respond really well to a bit of TLC. The Stratocaster is obviously, the neck didn't need much work in the first place, but it's come up really nicely. It plays beautifully, and I think the upgraded iron gear pickups make all the difference. It's got a lovely chime to it, and this is a really nice guitar as a result. The Telecaster, what can I say? I think the fretwork, the fret job makes all the difference to it. So it's basically starting the clock from scratch in terms of fret wear. So that's a real plus. Again, lovely colour, plays really nicely, and I think they'll both hopefully go quite quickly to a new good home. So these will be going up on my reverb shop shortly, and have a look at them there if you are interested, and by all means contact me direct through the channel here if you want to have a chat about them or if you want any more details. And if you can't decide between the Tele and the Strat, my advice is take them both. I'd be happy to do you a deal for the matching pair. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, as always, please like and subscribe. It helps the videos to reach more people, and I've got a lot more content coming up in the next few weeks, so I look forward to seeing you back in the shack soon. Cheers. So this guitar is now up for sale on my Reverb shop. If you just go to reverb.com and search for Alan's Guitar Shack. Alternatively, my website is alansguitarshack.com. Hope to see you there. Thanks a lot.